Good morning, folks. Good morning, folks. Let me put my seatbelt on. That was the alarm. Another episode of One Coach's Opinion. That's what it is, just that. Today I want to talk about the effect of an amateur career has on a professional career when it comes to boxing. Does amateur boxing, what type of effect does it have when it comes to turning pro? Or does it have an effect at all? Now, I truly believe that with anything, the more experience you get at something, the more experience that the better you'll be, the more practice you'll have. But in saying that, I also believe that the amateurs, right, especially right about now, it's a difference between teaching an amateur and teaching a pro. There's certain things that an amateur cannot do that a pro can do. There's no slapping in the pros. You know what I'm saying? An amateur, I guess the rule is to try to teach a kid how to turn his punches over. But you look at the pros, a lot of those punches don't get turned over. There's no penalty. Number one. Number two, you can hold in the pros. If you're in trouble, they'll allow you to hold to a certain degree. They're not just going to let you say, no holding. You're not going to get penalized. When the amateurs, if you get dinged with a shot and you start holding, they're going to start warning you. They're going to start taking points, and you can actually lose for holding, which is like a survival technique in case you do get hurt in the pros. You're allowed to hold. And there's other things, the other styles and stuff that might vary. But what I can say is this. I've been coaching boxing for over 15 years. And there are a lot of guys, a lot of young kids that were stars, saying the silver gloves, that won the silver gloves, that phased out of boxing. They focused maybe too early. I mean, there's some that stay. There's some that say, I won the silver gloves when I was young, and I became a hell of a pro. You got De La Hoya, you got Dominique Wade, stuff like that. But I bet you those guys can tell you there were guys that fought right with them when they were coming up, that they don't know where they are. They might run into them in the street and be like, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, I remember. And the guy might tell his friend, yeah, I remember I fought that guy when I was like 12. But I've seen a lot of guys that were superstars between the ages of maybe 8 and 13 that quit. They just decided it wasn't for them, either because they were burnt out or because when they got to a certain age where they could make the decision of whether or not they wanted to go to the gym or not, they chose not to go to the gym. They took a vacation that never ended. They said they were going to take maybe a month off. They had so much fun that month that they weren't going to come back to the grueling task of what boxing is. Also, when it comes to boxing, and some other sports are starting to do it now, boxing doesn't have a season. You either box or you don't box. It's all year round. You can pick when you want to take your breaks if that's what you want to do. But it's all year round. It's all year round to practice. It's all year round to fights. It's no season. Football season, kids end the season, they celebrate, they get trophies, maybe a month goes by and they might start up again. It depends on what league you are. In some leagues, it's like 3 months out of the year, once a year. You get like a 9-month, 8-month rest. So you get a chance to say, oh, I can't wait till football season starts. A boxer, as a kid, doesn't have the chance to say, oh, I can't wait till boxing season starts. I'm going to be in shape. Because it already started. It goes on all year round. So that's a lot on a kid. And you have to be able to manage that well to see some of the kids, I have a few kids that I can say, yeah, I trained, and they're still boxing, or they went pro. Some took breaks, some turned around, and some just quit. You know what I'm saying? They could box, but what it took to be a boxer might not have been in them. It might not have been there for them. They might not have the right backing. You know what I'm saying? They might not have the right people behind them. So I think amateurs does great for a professional boxer if it's used right. But I also think that sometimes the amateurs can burn fighters out, especially with them taking the headgear off now. Now they're basically fighting pro. They're using 10-ounce gloves. What's a couple ounces when you have no headgear on and you got a guy that can punch? They get more headbutts. They get more head clashes. You know what I'm saying? The fight gets stopped on a cut. You know what I'm saying? You could be out of a tournament because of a cut. You know? And the headgear is taken off. So now you're basically pros. So now you got a kid in the amateurs who's at a high-level amateur that goes into a tournament in which he is fighting 5 days straight without a headgear against the number one or the top 10 guys or the top 15 or 16 guys in the world with no headgear 5 days straight. So does that really prepare you for being a good pro? Some people might make it through the storm, but some guys are going to take enough head trauma in the amateurs now that they might not become pros. They might take a break, or they might want to become pros, but you see them start, you know, that is a lot of punishment for a guy to take as far as weight-wise, maintaining the weight, taking the headgear off, fighting some of the top talent in the world back-to-back. Let me know the first time you see a boxing doubleheader where a boxer fights on a Saturday and then he fights on a Sunday, or a Friday and then he fights on a Saturday as a special featured doubleheader. Floyd could say he's the best in the world, but he would call you an idiot if you asked him to. If you asked him to fight the top two dudes, I don't care if you asked him to fight Josesito Lopez and Andre Berto back-to-back nights. He might could do it, but he probably would tell you, no, I'm not going to do it. First of all, the weight cut. I got to get back down to the same weight the next day. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? But it does happen in the amateurs. You know, so I really think an amateur fighter, the amateurs can take a toll on you. But in the same sense, the amateurs, it can give you what you need if used right, if used as a tool, you know. And let me say this, for all those amateurs that say, well, you know what I'm saying, I never lost since this time, you know, no disrespect to Andre Ward, but when we were coming up, we went to the fights to get some work, not to protect the record. So if a guy weighed 100 pounds and nobody at 100 pounds was willing to fight him, and there was a kid that weighed 110 pounds, we fought him. It was a challenge. It was just a show. It was just for a trophy. It was just to see what could go on. And we beat sometimes, and you lost sometimes. But if you haven't lost a fight since you were 13, I can say either you're one of the best fighters in the world, which Andre Ward can argue right now, or I guarantee you is somebody out there that can right now say, I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to fight Andre. His coach said I was too heavy. I was 6 pounds heavier than him, and I wanted to fight him. And there's guys out there that might say I was his weight, and I didn't get to fight him. You know what I'm saying? I was his weight. There are guys out here right now that can say Andre Ward ducked them in the amateurs. And, you know, Andre Ward can say, no, I didn't, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's two sides of these stories. But I'm telling you, you even have a remarkable kid, and Andre Ward is remarkable. I won't take that from him. But there's few kids out here can say in the amateurs that they didn't lose since they were 13 years old, and they went to a lot of shows, and they took a lot of fights. I mean, how many amateur fights did Andre Ward have? I'd have to see that, too. Because a lot of guys out here have 200, 300 amateur fights. Well, they went to get the work. They went to get the work. They went to do what needed to be done. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about maintaining an undefeated record at shows in amateur boxing. Because bottom line is, you could be 5-20, 5-40. If you one day decide to go to the National Golden Gloves and win the National Golden Gloves, that kind of erases all those losses. Because now you're a national champion. The national champion is what's going to stand out. Not how many fights he lost in the show. They're going to say he became a national champion when he was 17 or 18 at the National Golden Gloves. That's going to almost erase everything. You know, you ask the Olympians like Jamel Herring. He had a hard amateur career. He didn't go out there and win all the tournaments. But when it came time to go to the Olympics, he won the trials and went to the Olympics. You know, there's plenty of guys out there that said they could say Jamel, you know, had been knocked out in the amateurs before. But when it came time for him to bite down He did it, and that's what made him a good amateur. You know what I'm saying? And that's what defined his amateur career. Let's say that, him being an Olympian. Because a lot of people tell you that he wasn't the best at that weight class, but when it came down to him proving he was the best at that weight class, he did it. But there's a lot of guys out here that'll say they beat Jamel Herring in the amateurs. But he went on, became an Olympian, and now he's an undefeated pro, and he's doing well in the pros. So, does amateurs affect your pro career? Yes, but not enough for you to try to glorify it, and not enough for you to try to protect it. You know, I seen a lot of kids that was 30-0 or 30-1 and quit. And quit as soon as they got a loss. Some kids, as soon as they got a loss, couldn't take the loss because they had been protected the whole time. As soon as they got a loss, they quit. A loss at a show. They quit. They couldn't take it. So, you know, I think you need the amateur boxing system. You do need, it's a good thing to have, you know what I'm saying, like anything else. But in the same sense, it won't define you as a pro. It won't define who you are. There's no way of saying you will not be a good professional fighter because you were not a good amateur fighter. Now, if you just straight sucked as an amateur, come on, we're not talking about that. We're talking about somebody who, a guy that can say I have 5 or 6, 7 national championships under my belt compared to a guy that says I never won a national championship. Does that mean he won't be a great pro? No, it does not. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you take a guy that was 0-60 in the amateurs and he'll become a hell of a pro. And I'm not saying he won't, but I'm not saying he will neither. So don't take my words out of context. It's one coach's opinion. Come on, use your common sense when you listen to me too. Thank you.